What is up, guys? For those of you that don't know me, I am iTags, and today we have a special video for you all. I was able to get early access to this past weekend's BODYCAM playtest. Though we didn't get to play as many games as we had hoped, I wanted to break down some of the pros, cons, and what to expect for this game as it comes out later this week on the 7th. Now, with it coming out on the 7th, it is at a price point of $30, so we will be getting into discussing whether or not that's a fair price point and whether or not you should buy it. So if you're on the fence of pulling the trigger and you kind of think this game looks cool, stay tuned for the rest of the details about it, and I'll give you kind of a basis to make your decision. So let's not wait any longer and go ahead and get into the nitty gritty. So we're going to start with the pros and kind of go over what felt really good in this playtest. Now, I didn't get to play the very first playtest, so I don't have any way to compare what they changed, what they didn't change, what felt good from the first to the second. But from my experience in this past weekend, this game is definitely very unique. It feels like no other shooter I've ever experienced. No Call of Duty, no Tarkov, no milsim game, nothing that I've ever played has lived up to how this gunplay and mechanics and gameplay functioned. Now, that could be good, could be bad, depending on your point of view, but to me, it was a pro. So the game feels kind of floaty almost, as if your guy's kind of delayed on some of his reactions because, you know, there's inertia, there's things trying to mimic realism. The camera's moving and leaning when you're leaning and moving. So there's a lot of things that don't feel like your typical shooter experience. And I think this is intentional, of course, to try and capture some of that realism and make their game feel more unique than just a copy and paste clone of every other arena shooter that's coming out nowadays. Second on our list of pros for this game is that the gun sounds are amazing. I don't know how many of you have ever gone to the range or just watched YouTube streams of different guns being shot, but if you've ever heard some of these guns shot in real life, this game does a great job at capturing that. Just do be careful, because if your volume's too loud, you might actually have a little bit of tinnitus, as if you were shooting a real gun, it felt like. So, of course, with your volume in reasonable control, the gun sounds are amazing and feel great coming out of the gun. It really makes you feel like you're immersed into that SWAT or police style shooter, like you're the person there firing an actual gun. So to add on to the unique feeling and the gun sounds being amazing, one thing I also had listed as a pro for this game was that you can have a play style that matches your personality. So I noticed in the game that a lot of people playing on the playtest were playing it like a milsim and kind of low and slow shooter, as if they were in real life, you know, getting really immersed into their body cam and their weapon of choice. For me, however, I come from a more arcadey or competitive shooter like Call of Duty and Rainbow Six Siege, Warzone, that kind of stuff. So I took it more of a chance to see how far could I push the limits of sprinting down lanes, could I get flanks on people quicker? And surprisingly enough, I was able to do just that, and there were other players doing just that to my team as well. So I think this game gives you a good opportunity to play as either a very slow and methodical milsim type player and still be successful, or somebody that likes rushing and kind of pushing the envelope to see what they can get away with in a more arcadey arena type experience. So good on BODYCAM for actually having a product so far that I think tailors to any kind of play style that you bring to a shooter. Now, in the playtest, there was 3 game modes. There was free-for-all, team deathmatch, and this cool mode called Body Bomb. Now, Body Bomb is similar to if you've ever played any kind of search and destroy, if you've played attack and defend on different games. Basically, one team has the bomb, one team has to find the bomb. The team with the bomb can actually walk around with the bomb to try and keep it hidden on their person, or they can put it down somewhere and try and defend it. The other team has to find the bomb and defuse it, even if they kill all the other members of the enemy team. I thought the mode was kind of unique. It was a little bit different take on what I've seen in previous games. So I thought this was kind of a cool pro on my list here for BODYCAM, and I hope to see them come out with more unique game modes and just kind of switch it up, because the TDM, though it was very fun comparatively to other games that have TDM, it can get a bit stale pretty quick. So the S&D mode, or the Body Bomb that they call it, was a good kick of adrenaline and a new thing to try and learn to see how you can play and maximize your fun. Now, a lot of people were kind of torn on the HUD system and the different minimal overlays that they have in game. Your team has some green squares basically that are highlighting them, showing that they are friendly. It's very similar to movies like Sicario that kind of highlight your team members, or people wearing night vision, thermal vision, and different field ops that, you know, may have a marker for their teammate to identify them so that they don't, you know, shoot them in the back or something. For me, coming from both milsim and arcade games, I really like this. I think it was a nice middle ground. It allows me to see my teammates in very, you know, dark or hard to see areas and not light them up. But it also keeps a little bit of realism because it's kind of this unique feature that is a play on what they do in real life, but through a lens of a camera. So I think this is another win for BODYCAM and how they're approaching their game and developing it. Hopefully they continue down this road. So one of my last points as a pro for this game that I really wanted to stress was that the visuals were insane. Now I know some people are going to be skeptical and saying, well, you have to have a high-end PC to be running such realistic graphics, and I honestly thought that way as well. Now my PC is no streamer PC, it's no crazy PC that's, you know, got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in it. But if you want to know my specs, I will drop them in the description below. But essentially I would rate my PC as a mid-tier one. So depending upon your setup, you may still be able to run the game just fine. You may not be able to run it at higher ultra graphics, but still enjoy your experience. For me, I was able to run mine at high graphics, but not ultra, and still maintain around 80 to 90 frames per second. And coming from experiencing games like Tarkov, where it struggles to keep 60 frames sometimes, well, I'll take that as a win with such a realistic game. Now to expand on how realistic the graphics are, the environments felt real, especially if you're able to achieve those higher graphic settings. It just feels insane. It feels like you are walking step by step in these environments. When the rain starts going, when the wind's blowing, when the snow's there, you really notice the weather, you notice the map. And something kind of cool that they've done is within these game modes, each round that changes, you still continue through the night and day cycle. So you may have 3 or 4 rounds during the day, then a couple at sunset, then some at night. And when I say night, it is pitch black. Now some people may not like that, but it does build for a very creative way to approach each round. Some rounds you may be able to get really feisty and, you know, rush the other team, get down some lanes pretty quickly. But at nighttime, you have to strategically choose when and when not to use your flashlight. But creating this kind of cool strategic flow to the game mode, forcing you to choose, okay, do I give away my position with my flashlight, but I also need to see in front of me to see the enemy. And it forces some really kind of cool combat scenarios where otherwise you wouldn't see this happen. Not to mention muzzle flashes also light up the area, which just looks damn cool. So now that we got some of the key pros on my list out of the way, I do want to jump into some cons to warn you guys of if you have not gotten to play this game and you're looking to buy it and you might be a little hesitant, or you might be wondering, okay, it sounds too good to be true. So let's break them down. So coming into the cons list, there's a couple things I want to address here. Of course, there's going to be cons in the gameplay itself because it is a new game and there will be things they have to fix, balance, etc, etc, etc. I don't know if they really consider themselves a live service game, but I do know they've already stated they will be continuing to polish the game as it is released. So things like clipping issues, graphics issues, weird quality of life things like having no time limit on a TDM round, you know, those types of things will hopefully be improved over time. So just be patient if you do decide to adopt this game and understand that it's still very new coming to the market. And I think we all know nowadays with AAA titles, they have all kinds of bugs and can be riddled with the same things that small developers can be riddled with. So let's hope we don't see the game fall because of these small quality of life issues. Jumping into one of the first points I had, is just kind of a small one. The UI on the menus is just weird. I don't know if anybody else had all the problems I was having, but I kept constantly getting kicked back to the main menus, not really understanding what was happening on the menus. Your settings menu and UI is kind of strange. Everything just looks weird, and it's not necessarily impossible to navigate. So I'm hoping they're just focusing on the gameplay first and the UI of the menu is just secondary, and that's why it looks that way. But if you've ever seen polished UIs versus non-polished UIs, well, this one is not very polished. So like I said, kind of a minor gripe, but still a gripe nonetheless. For our second point, I do feel that there was a lack of game types. There was only 3 in the playtest. I can't really complain because they may have more ready to launch later this week, or they may have more planned for the future. But right now, TDM and free-for-all, I could see getting a bit tiresome playing it over and over. Even though it is a fun game, I could see people getting burnt out pretty quickly on that. Body Bomb, I think, brings a more unique experience. However, I don't know if it's enough variety within those game types to hold a large player base. So hopefully they continue to brainstorm these game types that they could introduce or improve upon the ones they already have. So at the moment, if you're looking for a wide variety of game types, this is probably not the game for you, but it could be in the future. One of the biggest issues I had from playtest day 1 to day 2 was that the first day there was a queue system that I could hit quick match, and when it did work, it would instantly put me in a lobby that was as full as it could possibly be, or the next fullest lobby, it seemed. However, going to day 2, it seemed that that queue system wasn't working as intended, so they disabled it, and instead we had a server search system where, if you're not familiar with it, it's similar to Battlefield, or if you've ever played 0 Hour, where you click the server and there's a lot of people local hosting their lobbies, and you can just join based off the player count if there's a spot available. The reason I'm not a big fan of this is I don't want to have to boot up the game and go into servers and search for a game that has most of the players, but there's a spot open, or hope a spot opens up. And if I don't want to go to that, I got to go to the next lobby who only has 1 or 2 players, and then pray for other players to want to join. To me, it just puts too much legwork on the player base to try and keep servers running. I don't know what their plan is to fix this issue, or if this is working as intended and they prefer the server selection method. However, I think for long-term success, this will need to be addressed and rather quickly. Last but not least, my biggest con for this game comes from my eagerness to grind ranked and competitive modes in other shooters. Now, whether you played CS, Rainbow Six Siege, you've played Call of Duty, or really any shooter game in the last 10 years, then you've probably seen a ranked mode or played one yourself. I don't know if they plan to implement any kind of competitive or ranked mode or ranking system or leaderboard system that allows people to have something to grind for. I don't know if there's going to be microtransactions, battle passes, or any kind of rare gun skin or something that incentivizes your player base to continue grinding and playing your game, whether it be at a casual level or a competitive level. Now that I've wrapped up my pros and cons of the game, you're probably all wondering, am I or should I even buy BODYCAM? And my answer to that is, well, maybe. BODYCAM's already announced that its price point will be $30 on Steam, and some people seem to be a little upset with that, and I'm a little hesitant with what they've chosen to do with that as well. I personally think $15 would have been a little more optimal for the type of game it is currently. However, for somebody like me that really did enjoy the playtest and hopes the game's going to improve, I'm going to show my support by spending that $30. However, if you, as my viewer or my friend, would have asked, should you buy it for $30, I would be hesitant to jump out and just say yes, at least yet. With the current number of maps, weapons, systems, and everything that goes into the game, I think it's already in a great starting spot. However, until they really acknowledge or create some kind of plan to deal with long-term playability of the games, such as the server and queue issues, as well as, creating something that the players can grind for or to elongate their time in game, I would be hesitant to spend $30 on this game. It's a 2-man dev team, which is very impressive, but it's also a little worrisome as to how much can they improve the game and how fast. There's a lack of roadmap for now, at least to my knowledge. There's a lack of gameplay variety, and of course, the minimal polishing that needs to be done. However, it does bring a very unique game experience and mechanics that I personally love and have never had as much fun in a shooter. It's extremely immersive and realistic for those that love realism, and it's just addicting and makes me want to keep coming back to play, at least for now. So to answer the question whether or not you should buy it, well, if you have $30 to blow, I say go for it if you like these types of games and you love unique first-person shooter experiences. If you're a bit strapped for cash or you're just not that open to spending money right now, I would wait and try and catch it on sale, or maybe even if they have a free access eventually down the road, maybe test it out and then see. Best case scenario, the game gets better and you buy it later on when it's more polished and has a lot more features. Worst case, they don't do what they should, the game's not as popular, and it kind of dies down, and you saved yourself some money. Now, I hope the guys over at BODYCAM know they're doing a great job, and they continue to improve the gameplay over time and just make the game that much better and capture a large player base, because I'll be paying for it and playing it. And if you are interested in watching some gameplay, or you're just interested in the game, or just like shooters in general, feel free to stop by the stream over on Twitch at _itags 3 times a week around 9 p.m. Eastern. And let's talk about gameplay, let's talk about shooters, let's talk about life. I hope this video has helped inform you a little bit on your decision on whether or not to check out BODYCAM. If you have any questions, be sure to drop them down below. Don't forget, BODYCAM comes out on the 7th, and we will be jumping in head first. Besides that, you guys have a great rest of your week.
I'm not feeling it? Okay.
I was feeling it. I was just waiting for you to keep going, you know.
This is how we do it.